Iran unexpectedly softened its demands today in negotiations with the US to end the war. In particular, Iran has agreed to return to discussions on its nuclear program and is even willing to reduce the level of uranium enrichment. This is very different from Iran's position just yesterday, when Tehran's proposal was primarily focused on resuming shipping in the Hormuz Strait and ending the US naval blockade. And the nuclear negotiations were planned to be postponed to a later stage. But on the other hand, Iran is now insisting that the US must pay reparations, otherwise the Hormuz Strait will be closed to everyone connected with the Americans. For Israel, Iran is putting forward truly draconian conditions regarding the Hormuz Strait. Nevertheless, it seems that the pressure and blockade from the US are still working. Trump once again stated that Iran's response to the peace proposal does not satisfy him, and that Iran has not yet paid enough for all its crimes. And right away, Trump announced the conditions under which the US would resume military action against Iran. My name is Alexi Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, please subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave a comment on this video. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, told journalists that he does not rule out resuming military action against Iran if, quote, it behaves inappropriately. Despite the fact that the US and Iran are currently exchanging draft agreements on a ceasefire and ending the war, Trump is also seriously considering the possibility of new strikes. Strikes to break the deadlock in negotiations. Here is a quote from Trump. If they behave inappropriately or do something bad, we'll see. That option is quite possible. At the same time, Trump stated that he will review the plan sent by Iran in the near future, but he can't imagine that this document would be acceptable to him. Quote, Soon I will review the plan that Iran recently sent us, but I don't think it will be acceptable. After all, they still haven't paid a high enough price for their actions over the past 47 years. And as of the time of this recording, Al Arabiya reports that the US has indeed responded to Iran's proposal, which indicates that Donald Trump read the proposal and even sent a response to Tehran for consideration. And let me remind you that back on Thursday, April 30th, Iran sent it to the United States of America, a detailed proposal for a framework agreement containing 14 points. Some people here say 12, some say 14, but let's stick to the information confirmed by both sides, 14 points. The document provides for a month of negotiations to reach agreements on opening the Hormuz Strait, ending the maritime blockade by the US, and ending the war, both in Iran and in Lebanon, where Israel is waging a separate war against the Lebanese Hezbollah. After that, meaning after these issues are resolved within a month, another month is allocated for negotiations on Tehran's nuclear program. It should be acknowledged here that time is working against both Donald Trump and Iran, but it's working even more strongly against Iran. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated today that the United States is strangling the Iranian leadership through an economic blockade, simultaneously with the U.S. military operation. Next is a quote from Bessent. 3 weeks ago, President Trump ordered the Treasury Department to launch Operation Economic Fury. We are strangling the regime and it can't pay its soldiers. This is a real economic blockade and it affects all branches of government. All forces have been thrown into the fight. So in fact, the US decided to simply strangle Iran's economy to force the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to surrender, since the country's leadership really won't be able to pay its militants. But why do I say that time is also working against Trump? The thing is, Scott Bessent himself said that energy prices, which are currently rising rapidly due to the war in the Middle East, might actually decrease by the end of this year. According to him, oil prices will be significantly lower after this conflict ends, but not immediately. And the longer the war lasts, the longer and longer it will take for the market to recover. But it is already clear that in the upcoming midterm elections for the US Congress, Donald Trump's Republican Party is heading into the elections with high gas prices, which have historically influenced voter sentiment in the US. And today, the Al Arabiya TV channel is reporting as breaking news that Iran has dropped some of its previous conditions and agreed to include its nuclear program in negotiations with the United States, which indicates changes, compared to the previous focus on postponing the resolution of this issue. In particular, Iran agreed to discuss its nuclear program at the very first stage of negotiations during the first month, proposing to limit uranium enrichment to 3.5% and gradually reduce existing stocks of enriched uranium. According to sources, the revised proposal also includes an offer to gradually reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for lifting the American blockade. At the same time, Tehran abandoned its demand for the withdrawal of American troops from the Middle East region. And now, according to sources, instead of that, Iran is now seeking to put an end to the buildup of US military power around its borders, as well as to obtain international guarantees against future attacks. Interestingly, such a softening of Tehran's position came after US President Donald Trump stated the day before that he supposedly had not yet seen the exact wording of Iran's initial proposal, but was unlikely to accept it, since, in his words, Tehran had not yet paid a high enough price for all its crimes. And after this statement, Iran supposedly further softened its conditions in response. At the same time, Iran is still trying to get the most out of the upcoming deal. Iranian lawmakers say that Israeli ships may be permanently banned from passing through the Strait of Hormuz, while ships from the US and their allies will only be allowed to pass after paying war reparations. In particular, today there were statements in the Iranian parliament that the very peace plan Iran handed over to the US includes a ban on Israeli ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz at any time, both during the war and after the war ends. Well, this means that Iran is demanding to keep control over the strait, which the US is unlikely to allow. But in Tehran, they insist that things will definitely not go back to how they were before the war, and they want to collect duties from ships passing through the Hormuz Strait. And most importantly, what the US will not agree to is what was announced today by the chairman of the Iranian Parliamentary Commission on Construction Issues, Mohammad Rezai. He stated that 30% of the revenue from these fees for passing through the Hormuz Strait is planned to be allocated to strengthening military infrastructure, while 70% will go to economic development and social welfare. Although Rezai also added, quote, "Control over the Hormuz Strait is more important to us than obtaining nuclear weapons." And here, as you can imagine, is where a point of compromise may emerge. I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Additionally, if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid membership using the links and details in the description of this video. I would be grateful for any support you can give. You can also use the QR code on your screens. It's the easiest and most convenient way to support YouTube. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.